When I went to School of Architecture, everything was European or American. There was nothing that we could think Iran is worthy of, I want to say.
We know that Mr. Amanat is profoundly talented, but you are as well, yes?
No, I think I'm a super talented guy.
Excellent. That's all I wanted to accomplish.
The vision that the Shah of Iran had is that Iran should be even superior to the Western cultures and Western development. So,
you know what I've done? It's because of my own love. You know, I don't want any compensation as such.
I don't agree. If it's okay, I don't agree with you. I've known you.
Maybe I'm the magic. Maybe I'm the magic out of a bottle.
No, you're someone who's done. You're someone in our global community that
Iran is in poetry of Azadi and Hafiz, and not its material borders. And I think I am there. For me, even if I'm not in Iran physically, Iran is with me.
It's October 16, 2025. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 392 of Roqe. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Salam dostan aziz, durud bar shoma. Hope you are doing well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Coming up in just a little bit, you might say this is a truly historic conversation. We're quite excited about this. Two icons of Iranian design and architecture together in the Roqe Studio, both of them. Hossein Amanat, the visionary behind the Azadi Tower / the Meydan-e-Shahyad, one of the most recognizable symbols of Iran around the world, of our Iranian identity, you might say, as well as the man behind all kinds of other iconic works around the world. He will be here. Kamran Diba, the pioneering architect, the artist, the incredible personality who created the Tehran Museum of Contemporary Art, amongst others, and helped define an entire generation's visual language. So for the first time, these two giants have sat down side by side to talk about creativity, exile, identity, legacy. This happened a few days ago here in the Roqe Studio. We talk about how it felt to build monuments that would outlive them, what it means when those same monuments are later reframed or reseen or redefined by a regime they never chose. I'd say it's a rare, fascinating dialogue, and one that frankly meant a lot to me personally, to have both of these giants here in the Roqe Studio. Can't wait for you to see it. We're going to give you that in just a few moments. But first, an edition of our Roqe Roundup with smart Pegah Ganji, who was most recently seen on stage a couple of times in the last couple of weeks here in Toronto with us at Roqe Live 5, and then as the MC at the inauguration of the Little Iran area in Toronto, which we're going to talk about, both the positive and the backlash. This was with the the mayor of Toronto and other dignitaries. So we'll get to all of that. Joining me from Ottawa, the nation's capital, this nation, Canada's capital, Ottawa, Pegah Ganji. Hello.
Hi, Jian. It's good to be back. Although not in the studio, I miss it. As soon as I saw your camera turn on, I was like, oh my God, I missed the studio so much. But good to be here nonetheless.
You've exchanged the studio for a white, solitary room.
Yes, I am in my condo in Ottawa, and the walls are all white. So sorry, Roham. It's bright and white in here.
Your background really is a metaphor for Ottawa at this point. But
yeah.
I don't know. It's okay. First of all, Roqe Live 5. So I'm not sure that, first of all, I mean, it was I'm usually pretty critical of, first of all, self-critical. I think of all the mistakes I make, and then of everything we do. I think about how we can do it better. But it was really a tremendous night. With some separation from it, I'm just so thrilled by all of the performers and the incredible audience and the whole packed house of this big theater that's way bigger than we'd ever done. It was fantastic. You can, to the audience, you can watch and hear all of Roqe Live 5 now. We put it up on our platforms. But how was it from your perspective, having grown our little baby from Roqe Live 1? Like just a year and a half ago was the first one, February 24, I think, when we started at the Theater Aurora, the tiny little theater, and then grew from there. How did you feel about it?
Honestly, I was just like buzzing the entire day. And part of it was, ahead of the show, it was obviously the nerves and, the excitement of getting the show underway and all of the last minute things that occur and, just the planning and counting down to the moment that the show starts. And then as the show was progressing, so obviously at the top, I joined you on stage, but then went back side stage and backstage and all of that, and watching it from that perspective and seeing everything unfold. Again, continued excitement. And then at the very end, and spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen the video or wasn't there, when we joined you on stage with the team, I think in that moment, it was just this immense sense of pride. And like you said, it was like, this has been our baby, since Roqe Live 1, and to see the growth and to see, the attention, the love, all of it. It was just so incredible to be up on that stage and to look out and, see such a filled house and to be able to see where we've come from. I mean, Roqe Live 1, as great as it was, what a huge difference.
And in your town, Richmond Hill.
Yes, exactly. In my hometown. That's right.
So stick around for Roqe Live 6, everybody. We'll give you some information about that in the coming weeks. But
it'll only get better. Bigger and better.
How we beat this one. I mean, I was just blown away by everybody, by Navi, by DJ Al, by Shali, Rabina, Dr. Mashad. I mean, of course, Kaveh and Baba Kamini, and it was Namito. It was a really memorable night. Speaking of memorable, so I should say that we have. I mean, we've interviewed a lot of people on Roqe. I'm excited. You worked for a little while as a chase producer, trying to get people on this show. Paris has been doing it for years. We've tried. I think we've tried to get Hossein Amanat on the show before. I've talked to both Mr. Amanat. I met him many years ago, and because he lives in Vancouver, and we had seen each other at a few events. And I've also talked to Kamran Diba, Mr. Diba, both of whom these icons. We've wanted them on the show. To have them both was kind of an unexpected surprise. They were both in town kind of for separate reasons, but as part of this Little Iran unveiling and part of an initiative from the Iranian Canadian Builders Association, who was celebrating them. But when I asked a representative from about having one of them on, and it sort of turned into both of them, it became interviewing one person with a kind of career like Mr. Amanat or Mr. Diba is a big enough challenge, to sort of think about how am I going to work. I want to do a career interview with this person. And then to have two of them there, you can't go too into the weeds personally. You have to kind of reshape the interview as where do these two people intersect and how do we deal with them together. So it's been quite a thrill to people. We're going to show this in just a little bit, this interview, but to have both of them here in the Roqe Studio just in the last couple of days. And they're very different. I know you were on stage with them at the as they came up to help with the unveiling of Little Iran. Yeah. They could, in a way. I mean, they're both octogenarians. I mean, one of them, Mr. Amanat, is a little bit younger. I think he's 85, and I think Mr. Diba is 89 or almost 90. Both of them extremely active and well spoken and all that. You'll see, but other than that. I mean, you'll see in this interview. I mean, they're very different personalities, which of course adds a lot of spice to the interview and made it kind of surprising. The interview went in some directions that I hadn't anticipated, but such an honor to have them both here, and I can't wait for you to see this.
Yeah, I mean, I had a chance to meet both of them just throughout the I guess it was last week and the couple days that I was in Toronto for these events. Both phenomenal individuals, both so great at what they do. I mean, they're both masters of their craft, and but like you said, very, very different. I mean, even in initial interaction, when you do meet them, they are so very different. But I'm excited to see the interview because I haven't actually seen it and I wasn't there for it, so I'm very much looking forward to it too.
Well, you got a sense of Kamran Diba when he's on stage.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
he's not shy. You
No,
know,
not at all.
age hasn't slowed him down.
Nope.
And we learned from Dr. Mashad at Roqe Live 5 that nor should age slow you down in terms of any mental decline. In fact, you can regenerate your brain, as she taught
You
us.
know,
Yeah, go ahead.
actually, when I first saw him on stage, I mean, what something I would say to describe him is he's definitely got a zest for life, and he's just, this passion just kind of like it just shines so bright out of him, and you can see it. And he's just so funny and like happy. I felt
Well, sneak preview for people watching or listening to this. The interview was scheduled to be about 30 minutes or 45 minutes with both of them.
Right.
And of course, I could barely scratch the surface. I mean, how could you? I would have taken 5 hours with these guys. And I've said this before, and it's no disrespect to them and their age. If you ever ask me, if anyone asks Jian Ghomeshi, who do you want to interview? Who haven't you interviewed that you want to interview? My answer has been the same for almost 20 years now, which is find me the oldest person possible, because I love interviewing people who are a little later in life or much later in life, because they have something to say, they have stories to tell. In some cases, they don't give a shit. They're very open about how they feel. And so there's so much rich information to want to listen to from these two incredible men. And Mr. Amanat, he's just so elegant, and he's storied in terms of what he's done, and Mr. Diba is so creative and passionate. And so about 45 minutes into the interview, Mr. Amanat has to go. The handlers are kind of saying, well, it's time to go. We got to take you back to the hotel, and which is all fair. I mean, that's what we had scheduled for. And Mr. Diba says, I'm just getting started. I want to stay. So he ends up staying. And he was like, there's things I want to say. So there's an added part to the interview that's just Kamran Diba, where he stayed, and we talked a little bit more, and I talked to him a little bit about what keeps you so active. I mean, not only he's involved in that Persian garden, which is being created as part of the Little Iran area in North Toronto. Kamran Diba is part of designing that, and a number of other projects like that. But he's also quite prolific as an artist still, and there was an exhibition of his works here. His works are everywhere in the world, including in this gallery in Paris where he lives, but some of his works were exhibited here in Toronto last week as well. And when I asked, well, when did he do some, these artworks, and there's about 25 pieces, 30 pieces there, they said, oh, within the last 2 or 3 years. So he's very, very active, at the age of 90. And I asked him about that. I asked him what keeps you going like this at this pace. And his answer was actually quite interesting and moving and profound. So that's all coming up. Let me ask you about the Little Iran experience for you. I want to tell you about something that happened around that was one of the reasons I wanted to make sure we do a roundup that's kind of, I don't know if you want to call it controversial or difficult. We'll get to that, but let me ask you first. How did you feel about? I mean, you were asked to be the MC or one of the MCs there. You were up on stage for this unveiling of this street sign that says Little Iran up as part of Yonge Street there, and there was a big crowd, and of course some dignitaries and the mayor and Kamran Diba and Hossein Amanat and politicians. And tell me how that was for you.
So, I was really excited when I first even heard about this initiative about a year ago. So this was brought up by Councillor Chang's office a little over a year ago now, I want to say. And it was presented and lobbied for and finally got approvals and so on and so forth. And so now a year later we're here. But
this is a local Toronto councillor named Lily Chang. Who might as well be an honorary Iranian at this point.
Exactly.
She's very involved in the community. But just for people who are not in Toronto, that's just to explain who she is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so even last year, I was really excited about this initiative. And for anyone who has me on social media, you would have seen I probably shared this thing like 1,000 times to try and get the signatures and the support and all of that. And so now, fast forward to a year later, I was asked to be one of the MCs, and it was such an honor for me to be able to do it because, as I'm a very proud Iranian Canadian. I've been very involved in the Iranian community or the Iranian Canadian community for pretty much as long as I can remember, being in all sorts of events, and to be able to be a part of this historic moment, the naming of the unveiling of the sign for an area called Little Iran, I was just over the moon. And then as we got closer to it, to hear about all the individuals who would be joining, whether it was dignitaries or Hossein Amanat and Kamran Diba and so many others, it just became bigger and bigger. And throughout the entire event, I just couldn't believe it, to be able to stand there and to see this happening in Toronto. And I just kept on referring back to, how I felt when I first moved here, which is, gosh, in 95, when I was 5 years old. I was the only Iranian kid in my school until finally there was one other boy who joined the school who was a little bit older than me. And it was just, to compare that to seeing all those people out there celebrating this event, it was just unbelievable. So profound and such a happy and proud moment for sure.
You know that I actually asked you about it, if you remember, at Roqe Live 5, and you'll remember that I was kind of like, so what do you think of this? I mean, I didn't just approach it from an extremely enthusiastic place. Not that I don't, not to take anything away from those who've pushed for this and all the hard work. It's a thankless job trying to advocate for something like Little Iran. I mean, you're not going to, nobody's going to get famous or rich, doing that. So I always appreciate people who put their time behind something like this. But, part of me was kind of thinking in the lead up to it, I mean, what does it really mean? This kind of symbolism and does it sort of paint a certain area a certain way, and should it be exactly where it is? And I was a little caught up in all the what else could we be doing for the community to have more influence economically and socially and politically and culturally? And the Iranians have come here, but on the weekend that it happened, and when I came to that event, I was caught up in the emotion of it as well, and I thought. And it really did flash before my eyes, like where I was kind of going, wow. I mean, exactly the story that you just told, except for go back another 10, 15 years for me, right? And there's really no Iranians around. And for me to imagine that time and where I grew up when we came to Canada, it wasn't that far from where Little Iran is. I mean, it's like a 15-minute walk from there, So the irony of there being nobody around at that time, and now this being enough of an epicenter of the Iranian diaspora that there's actually a region of a major city now called Little Iran. And, people quibble about should it have been called Little Iran, why not Big Iran, or like all these kind of things. But all of that meant very little to me. I thought, way to go, here's something that we can celebrate. Everybody was so happy about it that day and felt very warm, and the community felt, again, sometimes we don't do well with unity, and that day felt pretty unified. I did hear some stuff about the Shir Khorshid flag not being allowed or something like that, which I couldn't figure that out. I mean, why? Why make those kind of rules? I don't get it.
I don't think it was a specific flag that wasn't allowed. I think the organizers had asked, no flags at all, because this was meant to be an event that was meant to be unifying all of the Iranians. And unfortunately, the flag is one of those things that we are so very divided on, and there's always all this controversy and conversation. But I think ultimately, I ended up seeing the flag actually raised, and there were a couple people who ended up bringing the flag. So I think ultimately there was a conversation, and then they were allowed to bring it until that was changed. So I don't think that went anywhere. But I wanted to address something. You mentioned the whole, why Little Iran? And I got this comment from a couple of people actually at the event in and of itself. And I was saying, maybe this is something that a lot of people aren't familiar with, especially if they don't live in Toronto. But we have other parts of Toronto that are known as little other countries as well. Like we have Little Italy, for example.
Little India.
Yeah, we have Little India, we have Little Italy. I mean, there's so many different areas that we have. And I think I don't know the history behind it. I don't know where the idea of little and then country name came from, but the context is, that's what we were following, and that's what's being followed here. And I'm sure once other communities start to develop and things like that, they'll probably follow suit too. So it's not referring to Iran in a minor or small or any other way for that matter.
To be fair, the people who brought it up to me were those prototypical. There's two people, and both of them were the kind of guys who are like, "We are not little. Why they say that?" You know, like going getting defensive about it. It was kind of okay. Don't worry, settle down. There's Little Italy as well, and Italy's a grand culture as well. We don't have to. But let me get to what I wanted to tell you about, which in all the positivity, there's a flip side of it, I guess, in terms of what it was very, very curious what happened. And I should preface this by saying I'm going to post some kind of video and talk about this, but because I haven't talked about it yet, but I wanted to debrief you on it and everybody listening to Roqe in the meantime as well, which is that when I was at the event, at the unveiling of Little Iran, at that moment where on stage Councillor Chang and MP Ali Assasi and Mayor Olivia Chow were the ones, and then Hossein Amanat and Kamran Diba were there, and you were there as well in the background, but they were the ones who unveiled the sort of street sign that means it's officially Little Iran. At that moment, I took a video, with my camera and put it on Instagram, kind of wanting to support, and also caught up in the emotion of the moment, saying, and I said something like, when I was a kid growing up here, I couldn't imagine this. What a powerful moment. What a great moment for the Iranian diaspora. This speaks volumes. It's quite emotional, something like that. And so this video goes out there and starts to, and I guess becomes something of a viral video. I mean, not in the millions, but right now I think it's, 700,000 views, which is not insignificant, as we know, right?
I saw someone sharing it, actually. A couple people I saw sharing your video.
Yeah, well, for me, 700,000's, a lot. That's the same amount that shared when, Crown Prince was in the studio, that kind of thing. So it was all good, kind of. I mean, there were nice comments and stuff. And then the comments started to change. And as the video started to go more and more viral, the comments that were unleashed were at first a little surprising and then shocking. Not necessarily in terms of what was being said, but in terms of the volume of negative comments. And by negative, I mean disturbingly negative comments. Not necessarily about me. I mean, there's always a couple of those, but they're really, it was like maybe two or something. But there's hundreds of comments, and I think even the majority by the time I limited the comments, and I'll explain why I did after a while. I think the majority were negative. Were if not racist, definitely dancing on the line of racist. Now, there was some, and there was this kind of angry backlash. I detected some Iranians. There were some Iranians who were kind of saying, why was money put towards this? Or, I don't like this mayor, or that type of thing. But the mass majority seemed to be from non-Iranians, who were saying things like, deport these people, go home, we don't want this, what's happened to my city, what happened to Canada, this is disgusting. And then a lot worse things that I'm not going to repeat here. Some of them so offensive that I did, that my admin deleted, but I had actually in the beginning said, just keep everything up. It's good. People need to see this, right? Now, I should mention that this video that I took, for one thing, it has the mayor in it, Mayor Olivia Chow, who, whether you like her or not, has no shortage of detractors. So some of it was just like people see a video with her in it and want to say something negative. If they're on the right of the spectrum, they don't like her. They're gonna. And some of it was clearly related to just people being frustrated with immigration and open immigration. The irony of which being, I can be frustrated with that too. We've talked about it on the show, how I think we have to be very smart about, in a place like Canada, about immigration and who you let in and how you let them in and how many you let in, so that when people come here, they have a proper chance to integrate and understand the culture and learn the culture and grow with the country and all of that stuff. We've actually talked about that on the show. We talked about how too much immigration happened over the last 5 years, and there were too many people coming in, but all of that gets conflated and into these extremely negative comments, which I want to point out because I think for me there were at least 3 takeaways, and if you'll indulge me, everybody's watching and listening, and you, Pegah, for just a second, because I know I've been talking for a while here, but give you these 3 takeaways. And when I put up a little video, if I'm going to do something I put up on Instagram, I don't have the chance to talk that long because people don't have the attention span. So, but here I can. Firstly, that people don't understand the Iranian community and the global politics of Iran, even in a place like Toronto. So any presumption that we might have that, we're here in big numbers, people down the street must understand us, throw that out the window. Because a lot of these comments, and by the way, you can go read them. They're on my Instagram. It's not like if anybody wants to put yourself through it, you can. A lot of the comments were things like, why are we celebrating a terrorist country that suppresses women, as if this was an initiative to celebrate the Islamic Republic of Iran, right, rather than the Iranian Canadian community. And then comments like, these Iranians who've come here are bringing in Sharia Islam, they're Islamists, and I saw some people in my feed, desperately trying to respond to some of these things and say, actually, the massive, Iranian Canadians are not very religious, and they're definitely anti the regime in Iran. But it just bespoke. It was just so clear that there's this incredible misunderstanding of. And to be fair, it is quite complicated. It's like, people are chanting Iran, and it's hard to explain to someone who knows nothing about this that no, we don't mean the Iran of today that's led by the Islamic Republic leadership. We mean another kind of Iran, and Iran is in our hearts. And by the way, these people are love Iran, but they don't love the politics of Iran and all. So that was one. Number 2, when people are harboring anti-immigration sentiment, they don't see Iranian immigrants as any different from any other immigrants. So don't fool yourself, Iranians. We may be proud of our people and our immigrants and the level of education and how amazing and hardworking Iranians are and the amazing family values and the culture and all that. But don't kid yourself. I mean, you go look at these comments. In some cases, they're even saying these Indians and Iranians and Pakistanis come here. They're throwing everybody in together, and in some cases mixing things up, so much so that it's clear that there's no division. In other words, when the backlash comes, don't think that the person who's leading the backlash is going to be dividing. Well, actually, I have more respect for the Chinese immigrant than this immigrant and this immigrant. I mean, it's just this, everyone's thrown into the same ball or bowl, which leads me to point number 3, which is we sometimes as a community tend to be racist and look down on other communities, and we have to be more aware of how we're seen, like it or not. For non-Iranians who are, for whatever reason, in some cases maybe legitimately pissed about, open borders or something like that, but in some cases, if they're just reflexively exhibiting anti-immigrant sentiment, they're not delineating. And the fact that we might think that we're better than some other culture or race or something like that is pretty stupid. When you realize that that's not the way we're seen. As much as we like to think we'd be seen differently, it just isn't. It isn't by people who are ignorantly looking at the world as in a binary way of West versus East and immigrant versus Canadian who's been here longer. And how much did I desperately want to go into those comments and say, no, you don't understand. I've been here my family's been here for decades, paying taxes. We self-identify as Canadian. You're talking about us as this reflects us. But then you also know, like, you can't go into the rabbit hole, right? So I'll let you respond to all of this. I don't think you've heard me talk about all of this. You saw maybe some of the comments, but give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I didn't see the comments on your video. I just assumed that, you put up the video and there would be love and hearts and rainbows and butterflies and all of that. That's kind of the mentality that I had because, as I said a couple minutes earlier, I was so happy and ecstatic and looking at this through my rose-colored glasses because truly for me as an Iranian Canadian growing up in Toronto and having those feelings of isolation and things like that when I was much younger, this was a very welcomed event. But what I did see is, a couple of news outlets and social media outlets and things like that, they all put up videos and things like that. And there's an Instagram account called Toronto Now or Toronto something on Instagram. And I saw they had posted a video. And the comments that you're referring to, I saw those same comments on that post. And I was really surprised. But then the minute that I kind of took those rose-colored glasses off for a moment, I thought, well, yeah, of course I should have expected this and anticipated this because look at the socioeconomic political climate that we're in currently, right? We've heard about this so much on a global scale and even more so within Canada the last couple of years where there has been so much concern and rightfully so about things like immigration. But the one thing that I do want to say is I still believe in an event like this, and I still believe in the positive kind of influence that it will have, because if anything, this might be an opportunity to educate further. And I know, Jian, this is something that we talk about all the time, or at least when I was on the show a little bit more regularly, we did, about how important it is to make that distinction, to show the difference, to show that the Iranian Canadian community is not the same as the Islamic Republic of Iran, and for that matter, the Iranian diaspora community as a whole. And I think it's through events like this, through moments like this, where we're able to have that awareness piece, that education piece, and maybe, shed some light on that fact. Maybe not through comments and answering trolls, if you will, online, but, I think it's a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, and we don't have to get caught up in it, but I think it is important to make note. We do tend to be something of an insular community, and it is when that community punches above its weight or gets noticed that, look at what happened, right? Little Iran happens, and then there's a backlash to it. So the truth comes out about how you feel when you suddenly have a nice house on the street or something, and people are like, oh, okay, now we're going to tell you how we feel about you.
How you really feel.
Yeah, and so let's not kid ourselves. That's all. And it is the internet, and there's a bunch of stuff happening there. Like again, some of the vitriol, I think, would probably not be there if the mayor wasn't there, and if it wasn't, it was kind of a mishmash of angry reaction to things, but the ignorance towards who Iranians are, what the Iranian diaspora and Iranian Canadians feel, and why this was happening was quite profound, given that this is in a city like Toronto. Mind you, the commenters might not have all been from Toronto, so it could be somebody sitting in another country even commenting. I don't know, but it still was surprising. You tend to hope that in a city that's this diverse, there wouldn't be this much ignorance. But again, that backlash, also pay attention to it, because we're not going to be left out. We're not going to be excluded by those who are committing the backlash. I think we've talked about this in the context of Trump and the South, and some people who are really positive about Trump, and that is what it is. And I can see sometimes why, and I sometimes agree. But there's folks in that camp who, those who are virulently anti-immigrant, who are not going to divide Iranians out of that. That's all I'm saying.
Your last comment about self-reflecting as an Iranian and within the Iranian Canadian community, and knowing that and being aware of that, I think is probably one of the most important parts as well, is to recognize that just because we care and we think so highly of ourselves and our culture and us as a whole, it doesn't necessarily mean that anyone who's looking at it from the outside in is going to look at it the same way.
And don't assume just because we have the big numbers here now that everybody understands us any more than they would in southern Saskatchewan or in Kentucky, where there may be less Iranians. Very quickly before you go, a giant of Iranian film, director, screenwriter, Nasser Taqvai. We lost him in the last few days. And do you have anything to say about him?
I mean, an immense loss, most famously known for My Uncle Napoleon, of course, which, a masterpiece, and just an immense loss. I don't know what else to say, truly.
I wanted to add, for those who, on the flip side, a great living Iranian director, Jafar Panahi, who might be he may be my favorite, and I, as I've told you in the past, I've had the chance to interview him many years ago. He just did an interview in New York as part of the New York Film Festival. I guess his new film, It Was Just an Accident. It's called, which he came to Toronto for as well, but didn't do much media here. He just did an interview with Martin Scorsese. And I guess you can get the interview if you're Martin Scorsese, because, you're Martin Scorsese. And of course, Martin Scorsese was close with Abbas Kiarostami. So, and Jafar Panahi had his entree into filmmaking as an apprentice to Abbas Kiarostami. So this interview is on YouTube, and I quite enjoyed it. If you Scorsese's asking the questions in English, there's an interpreter. She does a valiant job of interpreting, and then Jafar Panahi answers in Farsi. But it's a good watch. That's your little.
I know what I'm watching tonight. Thanks.
Thanks, Pegah. Nice to see you.
See you. Good to be here. Thanks so much, Jian.
Come back to Toronto.
I'm trying hard.
We like to get you more than in drips and drabs. Thank you, Pegah. Thank you, Pegah Ganji. That's the Roqe Roundup. And here we go. Let's get to our feature interview. Hossein Amanat, Kamran Diba in the Roqe Studio. Today's episode of Roqe is brought to you with the support of Beghi Law. Beghi Law Firm, founded by Dr. Shay Beghi, is a full-service practice offering expertise in civil litigation, family law, immigration and refugee law, personal injury, and real estate. Beghi Law has an experienced team of lawyers with 30-plus years of experience in litigation. Beghi Law provides services in English, Farsi, and Italian, and has proudly assisted hundreds of applicants, families, and claimants across Canada and abroad. Dr. Beghi personally specializes in very advanced immigration and refugee cases with a proven record of success at the highest levels of court in Canada. Thank you again to Beghi Law. All right, here we go. Sometimes history gifts us with individuals whose vision changes skylines and whose imagination becomes concrete, quite literally. Today in the Roqe Studio, we are honored to welcome not one, but two such visionaries, two Iranian icons of architecture and design. Hossein Amanat, the man behind one of the most recognizable monuments in the world, the Azadi Tower in Tehran, a structure so iconic it has become shorthand for Iranian identity itself, a symbol that has stood through revolution, exile, and decades of political upheaval, while its designer has continued to create globally renowned projects around the world. And Kamran Diba, the architect, the painter, the cultural visionary behind the Tehran Museum of Contemporary Art, one of the most important art institutions in the Middle East, and an artist who has built spaces that are not just buildings, but living cultural organisms. His work has stood at the intersection of modernism and Persian tradition, of imagination, you might say, and lived reality. They're both in Toronto right now. And while it is remarkable enough to have either one of them here in the studio, to have them both is extraordinary. We meet on a week when part of North Toronto has been officially designated Little Iran, the first time I believe anywhere in the world that an Iranian community has been recognized in this way. And we meet just days after Kamran Diba was honored by the Iranian Canadian Builders Association, the same recognition bestowed upon Mr. Amanat last year. They're both in their 9th decade, and they're both still very active and prolific in their work. So, what better moment to bring them together to talk about identity, architecture, creativity, exile, legacy? Two men whose buildings have become our monuments and whose lives have been stories of perseverance and imagination. Hello, dear Mr. Amanat. Hello, dear Mr. Diba.
Hi.
Hi.
Great to have you here. Truly. Let's begin with why you're both in Toronto and this Little Iran designation. It's quite extraordinary for somebody who's grown up here to suddenly have a Little Iran on street signs. Tell me how you reflect on it in terms of what you believe this may mean for the diaspora and for your own respective personal journeys.
I think it's very important event that's happening because we need some recognition for the Iranians in Canada, I should say, especially in Toronto, for our young generations who are coming up in Persian families, and for them to see that their identity is recognized and to feel as a part of this culture, but have their own culture, which has, I hope, that by this, the young generation would give more attention to Iran and its very rich culture. That is really my hope.
This is beautifully said. Mr. Diba, the same sentiments, I presume?
Yes, I cannot elaborate much over what Architect Amanat stated so far. I want to thank you. You know, we are proud to be interviewed by Iranian Canadian, and Mr. Kehtari, you know, the leadership and contact with me made everything possible about this idea of creating an Iranian identity in the city. So the question was, could you restate the question?
I can actually reframe it based on what you've just said, which is to say that you're a busy person. You're quite prolific. I mean, there's an exhibit of your artworks that have just been done in the last few years here in Toronto as well. So you have to choose your projects carefully, I would presume. And you wanted to actually be part of this Little Iran. You're helping to design the Persian garden that's going to be developed as part of this Little Iran area. Tell me why this captured your imagination to want to be part of this.
You know, is Mr. Farshid Kezdari, which got me into this mess, you know, and responsibility. So the idea was, you know, we are architects, you know, we are like tailors, you know. We make a suit for a big man, a small, short man, fat man, and that sort of thing. So professionally, you know, we just answer to what we are asked for. You know, I could give you an Iranian example in Farsi, if you don't mind, is that architects, they're like Mordeshur. It doesn't matter which is مهم نیستش که زاهد طرف یا جنایتکار همه رو میشوره.
I think, but hang on a second. I think you're being too modest, because I don't actually think I don't believe that's the case with you guys. I don't think you're just. I mean, particularly you two.
No,
I mean, your creativity is legendary. So clearly, you're not just architect for hire.
No, well, like a hired gun or a hitman, you know. No, well, sometimes you are like a hired hitman, you know, and they tell you a target, and you got to hit it on the bullseye, you know. But anyhow, outside of that is, yes, you're right. In my career, I've chosen. I could speak about myself.
That's what you're here to do.
Mr. Amanat, I'm not going to speak for him. You know, his vision is, but you know what he's done is done something memorable, because he's created a symbol for Iran. Okay, but I'm sure he was not. When he did it, he didn't know what he's going to do, and what will be the impact. And how would resonate, you know, throughout many generations. And I suppose before Mr. Trump destroy it, you know, if it does, God forbid, you know, we will have that. This will live. This will live as long as the Iran exists.
You said something, Mr. Diba, on stage when you were receiving your award of distinction from the ICBA that Mr. Amanat received last year. You said something that I thought was curious. You said, and I'm paraphrasing because you said it in Persian, but you said, "We're told we have done good things for Iran, but I never saw it as doing something good. I always saw it as my duty." Can you elaborate on that? And I guess Mr. Amanat as well. Do you share that sentiment that creating monumental work was less a matter of glory and more almost a matter of responsibility somehow for Iran and for its people?
Which
Why did we should start with you because you were the one who said it.
Yeah. So you mean to do good? Well, you see, the point is that I was educated in the U.S. and when I went back, I saw a country is a virgin country with which has the potential of being. I would say that my vision of Iran is that. In the 70s, especially after I was there about 5-6 years, was that Iran, after Japan, is the most significant country in Asia. And then the vision that the Shah of Iran had is that Iran should be even superior to the Western cultures and Western development. So Iran was attracting manpower and migrants from all over the world because it was a place of promise. It was tomorrow's land. Okay. And so that kind of a vision, of course, I came from outside. I saw outside. I was outside of the egg. Mr. Amanat was inside the egg. So his vision was a little different than us. We seen the world. I had no illusion. I saw the Kennedy being murdered, assassinated. I was in U.S. and then I saw the movement about desegregate America, and so forth, and marches and violence and so forth. And also I experienced the violence during the Mossadegh era, which was very unsafe, and the income from the oil was cut off, and the country was in turmoil, when we were students, and the Communist Party was almost in a position to take over the whole country, and Mossadegh was weak and didn't have any political support in general, as we see when the army took over. Nobody came to the street, and not many people got killed. People who were targeted were intentionally, but not from the riots and stuff like that. So living through the history of Iran, of my high school days in Iran, and then post, let's say, post Mossadegh era. Mossadegh era, people try to glorify it, but in fact, it was very insecure, economically distressed. It was a country was collapsing into communism and so forth. And a lot of middle class people, they welcomed this kind of army takeover of Iran.
But in terms of that period, forgive me, that as you say, you come back from New York mid 1960s. Mr. Amanat, you're there, and you famously entered the contest, and as a kid in his early 20s, end up designing and developing the Meydan Shahiyad, which becomes the Azadi Tower. I'm so I don't. You can tell me if I'm romanticizing that time. I'm so enamored of what was happening in Iran in this era. The two of you, as young Iranian architects, designers, that there was a fertility that you would be able to allow your imagination to be as big as it was to create something like the Shahiyad Tower. Tell me about how you describe that time.
I think the different stages of the history of Iran had come to a point that this kind of creativity and flourishing culture could happen. That means we have to always remember that we were in Qajar time, and then we came in early Pahlavi. And from every point of view, we were very weak. From every point of view, we were looking at the West. When I went to School of Architecture, everything was European or American. There was nothing that we could think Iran is worthy of, I want to say, you know. And it was in course of my studies in the School of Architecture in Tehran University. And what happened, people like Furuq Farrokhzad were there, Sohrab Sepehri, all this in the cultural picture of Iran, some stars happened to show themselves. And it was not only in area of literature, you know, which we have amazing poets like Sayeh, Hushan Gebtaj, or many others, you know. Akhavan Sales, it's amazing. I mean,
did you know at the time?
Yes.
In other words, you knew something was happening. You
yes,
knew
yes,
how monumental this was?
Yes, I think. And I'm very lucky to be in that period, because with our friends, they would recite the poems of Akhavan Sales or Furuq or Sepehri. We would go to the exhibitions that I have seen Sohrab in that exhibition in Banki Saderat, showing his work, and other people. So we were in contact. In the meantime, there was this great evolution in music of Iran, although it had started in Qajar and then in first Pahlavi, it has, but people like Shajarian or Banan or this, they were all glorifying the culture of Iran, and we were enjoying it. And apart from that, and people like Tanavuli and Mesqali, and they happen to be flourishing again. You see, in every area. And it's not only Barg Sabz programs in the radio. It was a lot of other things happening. It was the Khesht Aine of Furuq, and everything was new and
Mr.
exciting.
Diba, does that resonate for you, what he's saying? And when I think about, for example, the Tehran, the museum, and just to look at it, just to experience it, you think, well, this is somebody thought this big idea, and thought, if I may, thought it was okay to think this big, and that suggests that it was allowed at the time somehow.
Well, let me go back, you know, because Mr. Amanat is much younger than me. I don't know exactly. I'm 88 years old, you know. When I was a child, I remember 3 years old or something, it was the end of the Second World War, and Iran was occupied. And Churchill, Roosevelt, and, you know, Stalin, you know, they came to Iran. And when they bombed Iran, you know, my family, we ran to Isfahan, because we are from the Turkish region, and we thought that they're being taken over by the communists. We knew the Russian system and so forth. We don't want to be under that. And basically, we lived in Tehran, but our real home was in Tabriz. So the family, you know, ran away to Isfahan, and I was maybe 4 years old or something. So I have a life experience which is very political. Then, you know, during, as I mentioned, during the Mossadegh era and so forth, I was a student and so forth. We had knifing each other and so forth, and killing each other even on the high school level, for political visions. So I have a totally different image of Iran. That's what I said, inside the egg or outside of the egg. And then I was more of an internationalist because I came from the West. And usually, in the universities and in academia, the vision is more progressive than what is happening in that country, because it's very in abstract ideas. You could talk about ecology. The ecology is today is a hot subject, but environment. It was. When I was 25 years old, we were concerned about these issues. So when you come to Iran, you have this international vision and understanding, and you want to implement it somehow. You become an idealist. But going basically, what I look from his work is basically is a creativity, is a personal creativity. He doesn't want to make a political statement. He's got this job, and he wants to create something meaningful, okay? And then we say, okay.
Is that not true of you?
Not as much. My point of view is that I wanted to create institutions. You see, my vision was more sociological and cultural first, and when I went to Iran, I rejected architecture. I thought architecture deals with single individual work, and it doesn't mean it's just a drop in the ocean, And I named my my office not architecture office, planning organization for social improvement and social planning and that sort. And everybody said, oh, this Diba is not even an architect, He's talking bullshit about, sociology and stuff like that. He talk about people and people's rights and to do architecture which is human and a response to the need of community and stuff like that. In Iran, the architects were really architects, and their vision was to create an architectural edifice which is some meaning and had to do with their creativity. So if they were talented and they did something big, but they didn't have any, especially, I don't know if they had a political vision or not, but eventually, he explained, the environment that he knew and so forth. But my idea was to create the institution for the arts.
But it didn't have to present so well. I mean, you didn't just build an institution that in a box. I mean, no. You create this beautiful work. This is what I'm saying. You're being a little modest.
That's the talent part, The point is that you either, when I was a child, my father was a dentist, and he brought all the furniture for his office and so forth, and we had a Bauhaus furniture in the first floor of our house, which was his cabinet, and then I was exposed to that, and my mother was very also influential. We didn't have any carpets. He thought the carpets are too traditional. We had gilim, because in gilim is more graphic. The design of a gilim is more graphic than is more Rococo and Baroque. The Iranian carpets and so forth. So I was brought up in the environment of the Bauhaus as a child of 7 years old, 8 years old, and then when I went to Europe, I embraced that culture. So my idea was, I started painting,
yes.
Because I wanted to be creative.
You're an artist. Yes.
Yeah. And then basically I thought that I cannot wait till I graduate and go and get a project from a client and do something. So I started painting in U.S. and I had show. I put my work in museums and so forth. And I had a commercial, actually a successful show in the mid-'60s and so forth. So when we went to Iran, we didn't have very much to do. We Tanawali got together. I was hanging around with the art community, and I told them, let's make a club. So we get all the artists, because the old generation of the poets that he referred to, they were male-oriented. We were more open. We thought the woman could have a role in our gathering. So we made a partner, a lady, a woman. So to take this stigma of the males getting together, talking about manhood, and of course, I mean, they talked about world and mythology and whatever, which very important. But for us we wanted to have a mixed area, and the artists, we had women artists, men artists, and so forth. They could communicate, get together. And of course, we made a club. It was some type of flower children, and we had the posters of flower children, and we played the rock music and whatever.
And are you saying that all of that, what you've just described, is what we see in your works of that time? In the creativity is born out of that?
You mean, I think, no, I think as he's a creative artist and architect, and he could do something significant. When is it two different, there are two different phenomena, and we cannot integrate them together. One is your talent. You may have many good ideas that have no talent. Then you become a professor. But
you agree,
in a university.
you agree that you're talented as well, right?
Well, I think I'm talented.
It's not. We know that Mr. Amanat is profoundly talented, but you are as well. Yes.
No, I think I'm a super talented guy.
Excellent. That's all I wanted to accomplish. Let me ask you this.
But that was not my mission.
I got it.
To express my talent.
Yes. No, I understand. I got that. It made sense. I want to move it along, and this, that period of this profound fertility that we're talking about ends quite abruptly, obviously, and disrupts both of your lives. You go on, both of you, I mean, to your credit and to your talent, to have huge careers outside of Iran, but and in contradistinction, I should say, to artists we've had on this show, or people, if they weren't executed, that is, whose careers basically ended. It just it stopped after 1979 because there was no oxygen for what they did. When you reflect on that rupture, are you angry about it? Are you bitter? Do you look back and go, my career would have been something else if we had continued and the revolution hadn't happened? Or is it something that you can look back on and sort of think, well, this is another growing experience that I had as an architect?
I'm not angry. In fact, I'm very sad about the situation of my country now and my people. But about myself, I had some very hard time after the revolution, but I managed to go through that time. And, Yashater said something interesting. He said, Iran is in poetry of Azadi and Hafiz and not its material borders. And I think I am there. For me, even if I'm not in Iran physically, Iran is with me, and I'm never out of it. And for architecture, of course, I regret that I can't be in Masjid Shah Isfahan or Meidun Shah or places like that. All these historic relics that I have been sketching them from very young years. I love to go back and do the same, but I think I have a whole series of books on Iran, and when I have architects have difficulty to grab an idea and to develop it. It's very difficult, dark times. For me, I take refuge in those books, and I page them as if I've gone there, because it is a part of my psyche, I should say.
When you say I went through some really hard times, I mean, just so we have a sense of what would be an example of that? What was one of the hardest things that you had to go through in that period after the revolution?
Of course, it was not having anything left from my life. Everything was confiscated.
Yeah.
I was being condemned to death by my own people, which I never thought this is the situation. And I'm still not liked very much by them, by the regime. So, but to me, I just put it aside and I got to the positive parts of this beautiful culture, being Shahnameh or Ghazal Hafiz or looking at a book and a piece of architecture. They're all the same for me.
The same thing happens to you, Mr. Diba. You end up losing a lot after that revolution in terms of material things, let alone a life and a career, etc. Inside Iran. How do you reflect on it now?
I don't regret the past, even the revolution, because I'm a born optimist. I became street smart. During the Mossadegh era, people were knifing each other, and you get abused by the local people. Not sexually. I'm talking about you get hit, they kick you, and so forth. It's very so you become kind of a thick skin, in a sense. You could deal. And then in U.S. also, when I was there, I went to Chicago, and then I ran out of money, and I didn't know what to do, and I worked cleaned the kitchen of a restaurant and so forth. And I had a bleeding ulcer. I ended up in the hospital, and a rapist came to the hospital, raped one of the nurses. All of a sudden, I realized that all the nurses, they came to our room, which were 3 men there, took refuge in our room, because they thought that this thing is going to go on. So, I had, once by mistake, I end up in Harlem, a man of 23 years old. I had a lighter hair in those days, it looked very European with European. And then I end up in a Harlem, and then I saw a hotel sign. I went to the hotel sign. I realized it's a kind of a brothel, and drunk people, black, everybody black, and so forth. I got so scared, I couldn't
But
sleep.
even for someone who's seen the world,
I'm saying that I'm tough.
Yeah.
I don't know at my age,
Well,
I mean,
tough,
not tough physically.
I hear you, but a revolution that reverses everything, including a lot of the hard work that you've done.
The whole point is that, I mentally, I live in the past. I do not live in the past,
yes.
okay? I always look in the future, what can I do? When I was with my English wife in London with 4 suitcases on vacation, I never went back. And lucky enough, my wife had a very good house that I could sell it and start a business in U.S. So it's simple as that. But I always thought that I'm a doer. I have to survive. I've survived hard times in U.S. as a student, and because I'm not kind of a mommy's boy, call my dad, send me money, I'm broke, I end up in rough area of Chicago. How could I survive? So I try to put up with it, And
I got you.
So my vision was the vision of the future. How can I survive, And definitely survival. Actually, there were 2 women in my life, and I have to survive. I'm telling you about my personal life. I have to survive living with 2 women. I make them happy. And so that was the toughest, because once people say, how do you manage? I said, I manage General Motors and General Electric at the same time. So it took a lot of my time, managing managing 2 lives,
I got
at the same time, which are totally separated. So my focus, my creativity.
You've gone a long way from a question about the revolution.
I was concerned
the dexterous
about
mind of
No, I was, the revolution was a stop, and I was reborn. And I always thought that I'm reincarnated in a new situation. And in a sense, I was internationalist. I worked for a political magazine in U.S., which was for the American diplomats. I'm more or less an amateur historian, Also, I know the history of Iran. As I said, I was born when he won the Second World War. And then up to the now, I follow the politics and so forth. Let
me ask you this. First of all,
ahead.
I know I don't have a lot of time left with you guys. I've got just a few minutes left, but I'm so grateful because I'm really, really enjoying this conversation. Just a couple more questions. First of all, and you'll forgive me if these questions are maybe, I don't know if they're philosophical, but if they're tough to, do you have to take that? We can. No. You're okay. Okay.
I want to. Yes.
To inform.
When we
silent it.
When we think about both of you in terms of the institutions that you created, it occurs to me, and particularly with something like the Meydan Shahyad, the Shahyad Tower, it's interesting that the artwork, the building remains there, but the symbolism and the utility gets co-opted and to mean different things. This also happens with the Museum of Contemporary Art. And it must be, I wonder how you reflect on that, both as an architect but also philosophically. When you've created something for one purpose, and now it's called the Azadi Tower, and in some ways claimed by a regime that you, or by folks that you may not even support, the building hasn't changed, the design hasn't changed, but the meaning is co-opted.
Yes.
How does that feel to you as the person who birthed it?
I think this is an important thing about Shahyad. Even when I was involved in building Shahyad, many people in Iran, Iranians, would say, why are you building this building for these people or something? They didn't like, there were different...
Because of the costs? Or
because politics.
Before, yes.
Yeah, they say he's selling out to the regime, because, the left
I'm supporting... They thought...
That regime.
No.
Yes, they thought I'm supporting the regime with this monument.
Making a symbol for the king.
I never get into this kind of discussions. I just did my work. Why I said this background to you? Because Shahyad for me was the celebration of the culture and history of Iran. Didn't bother about who was in charge at the moment and who was on before, nothing. It was about the beauty of this culture. And I think this is why it is connected with the hearts of people.
That's actually a wonderful way to answer that question.
So whatever they repurpose it for, this is
it still has that heart. Yeah. Well, let me ask something that's related to that then, and I'm wrapping up. But this is a bit more of a philosophical question. But as I was thinking of you two, and watching you on stage, I kept on thinking about this, because you are associated with works that are now embedded in the Iranian identity. I mean, this every time somebody introduces you, they say this. So you've created structures that are inseparable from the Iranian identity itself. Where is the line between reflecting cultural identity and creating cultural identity? Mr. Diba and then Mr.
I answer
Please,
now?
yes.
No, you see, I have totally, I think you have misread the situation of museums. I've done 3 projects in Iran, in Tehran, which are known. Of course, I've done works in other places. And even I did a new town, okay? And I feel I was indebted to the system which allowed me to do that, you know? I mean, the country and the leadership of the country was not separated from my point of view. I had a sort of a devotion, you know, to the leaders, and I cannot deny. And the second thing that you have misread the situation. All these 3 institutions that I made in Tehran, which is registered, and even the 4th one, which is the town, they never changed their names. And you tell me one significant street or avenue or anything which has kept the name which was designated to it during thing. And the second part is that the function and the meaning of none of these institutions I did has changed. Only thing that they have happened, they have violated some of my copyright, let's say, of the architectural design, and they have interfered and injected certain things which I don't approve. But it's to my architecture. But the idea is the same. Museum hasn't changed. Museum is the same, and the museum authorities has kept it well. You know, I take my hat to the revolutionaries, which never touched, never tried to liquidate. Sometimes some people, you know, I'm trying to be honest. I'm a sociologist, you know, as well. You know, I'm a one-man band, you know. So. I feel that the museum collection survived because they didn't have enough knowledge how to liquidate it. And they didn't know what to do with it. It was a puzzle that they kept it in a closet. And then when they opened the doors of closets, you know, they realized that this is significant because all the dealers want to buy them. All the dealers are after them. They thought, oh, maybe they're trying to cheat us into buying it cheap, or they made some attempts to buy the best works of like Pollock and Rothko and you know, big names. They made an attempt, but they failed. And I was all the time, you know, writing articles in the dailies in London. Exposing the under the table dealings of the officials.
Well, I'm grateful you went back to that question, because you're right. I think that in the way you've described it, that would be a misreading, given that those institutions they stand out as having not shifted in terms of their meaning and even their name, as you say. To the question I was asking, do you, when you were creating, when at that time or even now, are you thinking about reflecting the identity of the Iranian people, or are you aware that you are playing a role in creating the identity?
No, I tell you, you see, you do something for your mother and father. You don't think that you're doing a favor to them. Do you see what I mean? You take them to hospitals, you worry about them. You don't think that you're doing a favor or you're doing anything. You just do it automatic, you know. Some of it is automatic thinking and so forth. So I feel that each case is different, you know, and I wanted to do, I was an artist. Maybe it was ego. I made a club for the artists. Maybe I wanted the architectural world to look at me as being privileged. And they thought, and my cousin, which was Shahbanu Farah, at the time she didn't have the title of Shahbanu. She was a young queen, and she was not as powerful. After 5-6 years, she was more prominent. And people thought I'm privileged, and you know, I think the Shah and the Queen, they didn't allow the family, you know, to get advantage of their relationship, and because you know, somehow, because I don't know for what reason, I say that they they thought maybe that it would tarnish their reputation if they allow the family. But this is not, we have a reverse situation. Now we have a tribal situation, because the families of the leading elite or political elite in Iran, their extended family and their all the relationships, even the people who marry to that family, get in positions, get in a powerful. You know, once the uncle from the mother's side of the queen was standing in the queen was, because he would divorce his wife or something, he was kind of snubbed. And he told me this is a guy who, when she was almost an orphan, looked after him. He said that I'm treated like a tramp, standing on the side of a street, smoking a cigarette, waiting for a customer. I mean, this is the treatment I'm getting from my, sister's daughter, which was happened to be the queen, because they were not making decision. They put him in a limbo. And then I felt that, okay, being close, of course, other people think you're powerful. They, I had a fight with a army general over an accident of car. He said, I'm going to destroy you. And I said, how are you going to destroy me? He said, if you're a son of a prime minister, I destroy you. And I said, I'm not a son of a prime minister, you cannot destroy me.
There's so much you're saying that I want to ask about, but I'm going to get to our last question. I just wanted to direct that to you, Mr. Amanat, the notion of identity. And the creation of it. I mean, you're keenly aware at this point that a teenager wants to say, I love Iran, and they think of your design and put it on a T-shirt, It's inseparable from identity. Are you aware of that in the moment of creation?
No way. Not at all. Of course, anything I do, I try to do it the best way I can. But I never thought it would get such a prominence.
A final question. You've both had extraordinary careers. How do you think about your legacy at this stage of your lives? Do you see your work as complete or still in motion? Mr. Diba, and final word to Mr. Amanat.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I have created some institutions in Iran, which is a work in process, you see. They haven't died out, and they kind of, I try to control it from outside and communicate with people who are running it, and I have been successful to an extent, because,
Are you still hungry, or do you think you've done great things and you're
I'm
okay?
always hungry. Yeah, in fact, we're looking forward to have a good lunch.
Why are you still hungry after everything you've done?
No, because, I will die. If I'm not creative, that's why I'm painting. I don't know, you see my work in the painting,
Yes.
Every year in Spain, I live between two countries, Spain and France, and constantly, when I'm not working on projects, I'm painting. But let me tell you didn't ask for the Little Iran. We didn't have a chance to talk about.
We started with that.
Huh?
We started with Little Iran. That was the first question.
No, but we didn't get into the idea of because this is a very cultural, sociological thing, and we just touched upon it very superficially. Because I have spent a few months. When did we started? Thinking about what is the meaning of Little Iran?
I'm happy to talk more about that. Do you want to stay and we can talk more about that? And
yes, I could talk about this,
right.
the significance of it for the expatriate Iranians all over the world, from Australia to United States to Canada. I would.
Okay.
This is my duty. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
I'm not in Canada to
talk
have
about yourself.
lunch, good lunches and good entertainment.
But you are still hungry, so the lunch is
I'm
coming.
hungry to talk about this project and its significance, and how could it be in a meaningful? Because it's just doing a park. Is just maybe I just put my foot in the in the door, so the door
with
is
your
still
with your
locked.
blessing, I'm going to ask you to stay.
No,
for a
I
little
stay.
bit.
I stay. Yeah,
And
as long as you want.
Mr. Amanat, I'm just going to. I suppose that final question is, a shorthand of it is, how much do you care about legacy, and how much do you feel like you've done what you've wanted to do in this life?
You know what I've done? It's because of my own love. I don't want any compensation as such. And so legacy, I hope it shows to Persian architects that they can not only look at the West, but sometimes look at their own country. But really, the world is so international now. Anything you do, you are a part of the one group of, one world. So we are all one. But I think enhancing or showing the beauty of one part of that garden is something you can do, and you are a different part of this garden of the world.
People always say you're a modest guy. You deflected a question about yourself and your legacy and started talking
Right.
about the garden.
I say what I feel. I can't create things.
I'm so grateful for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank
really,
you.
thank you. Today's episode of Roqe is brought to you in part with the support of Ravi Artisans. Ravi is the result of collaboration and synergy between 5 creative, independent Iranian brands in the Greater Toronto Area. The founders of this collective, their mission is to build a space filled with unity, trust, and creativity where art, friendship, and professionalism come together, and every business can find confidence, collaboration, and inspiration in the name Ravi. The founders are Alia Pastry, Avers, Jadeite, Fam Luxy, and 2 Art. Ravi is more than an art event. It's a collective movement for growth and inspiration. Thank you again to Ravi Artisans.
Uncle,
So you were saying you
No,
were
no,
hesitant about coming because of but
yeah.
then what changed your mind? Why did you want to come for Little Iran?
I come from
No.
to tell you the truth. I came to do the park.
The park, yeah.
Yeah.
So and
I
what
didn't come for the. It's too heavy, I have to pay.
I know you didn't come for the award, even though I believe you firmly deserve it, and I'm glad that they did that. For you.
I appreciate very much what they have done to me.
Yeah.
The last time I was like a movie star, I was flooded with people who want to take my photos and so forth. We had 2 security men. I told them.
Well, you're a very handsome man. People want to take photos with you.
No, it's not because I'm handsome, but maybe because I'm a cousin to the queen. Maybe this is part of the magic, and so forth. But
You have had a remarkable career. People are aware of this.
But I don't owe it to her. I would have, if I was not the queen's cousin, maybe I won't do the museum, but I still be in Iran practicing, because I had no reason, I had no reason to leave Iran. If I left, I was
So you
lucky.
do owe her.
No, I don't owe her anything. I would have done anything as an architect. I was a talented visionary architect.
But aren't you glad you did the Tehran Museum? I mean, doesn't that...
No, I would have done...
You would have done that
maybe,
anyway?
No, Tehran Museum has nothing to do with the Queen, to tell you the truth.
That wasn't...
5 years took...
Getting that gig
No,
wasn't...
let me tell you something. When the Queen of the England behind you, and really she wants to do something, it doesn't take 9 years. Okay? Unless we say she was not committed to it, she couldn't raise the money, or she was not devoted to it. But afterward, okay, when the thing is done, all right, I could go around and say, oh, I'm Kamran Diba. But it's thanks to this gentleman, okay, that I have such an audience, they want to take my photo and so forth. I realize that has nothing to do with me. It has to do with him. Who did this thing?
Okay, I don't agree. If it's okay, I don't
I'm
agree
saying
with
now,
you.
Now, what I'm saying
I've known you.
Maybe I'm the
without-
magic. Maybe I'm the magic out of a bottle.
No, you're someone who's done. You're someone in our global community that به شما افتخار میکنیم. We believe we're lucky to have had you, and we're lucky to have you. And so I'm glad that you were invited for this and to the ICBA and for the Little Iran. But I believe that any time you would come, like you did for the Aga Khan Museum, people would want to celebrate you because you've done these
I
things.
didn't come for Aga Khan Museum.
You didn't come for that?
No.
They just they just sent the award?
No, I was, Aga Khan has an award program.
Oh.
And I was one of the first Iranians to get the award. So
You did- you-
Iranians got the award
Oh,
too.
they-
No,
you-
every few years they do an award. They get work from the Islamic countries and the work which Islamic architects have done outside of Iran and has to do with Islam. Okay, they have a committee. It's very elaborate and so forth. I've been on a jury too. Of them, and you have guys from Dean of MIT and Harvard and everybody. They come as a jury of some famous name. Of course, they put a couple of token Middle Eastern in the jury. They're very much Western oriented. And it was me in the jury with a guy from Jordan. So what I'm trying to say is that they give award to the best architect. Museum never got, because it was sabotaged by someone, I don't want to mention his name, it was the Aga Khan trustee at the time. So, museum didn't get, I get award. Well, museum is very important, okay, more important than a new town in a heck town, somewhere in the Iran, but never got recognition by Aga Khan. Because of somebody made a sabotage. Oh, okay, forget it. I don't want to get into that.
Talk to me about the garden. Talk to me about why so you end up coming because you're inspired by doing the garden. Tell me about that.
I was fascinated by this idea of Little Iran. Okay? And they were in conjunction, both of them. And chicken and egg, both together.
You mean Little Iran and the Persian Garden?
Yeah. And I don't know which one came. He may remember it. I got it mixed. I'm an older guy. I don't have a precise memory of the time element. But the idea was fascinating. There's something in the world unique has happened, and I could influence this event. Okay, and then I said, okay, I told him we want to do a cultural center, which is more meaningful than a garden, because then you will have a library, you have an auditorium, you show all the things I have in a museum in a smaller scale because it was done half a century
You need
ago.
the funding for that.
Okay, the funding, okay, we have a rich community and so forth, it's tax deductible and so forth. Maybe they could do it, maybe not. I talk about the cultural center. Cultural center could be small, it could be very elaborate. But without a cultural center, I'm telling you the truth, the Little Iran is meaningless. It's a bunch of shops. When when his organization, Dr. Kehtari's organization, sent me videos in the park and so forth. I look at the thing, because I'm an urban designer basically, and I look at it. I saw a potential, and I saw this row of, I believe in the multiplicity of interaction, symbolic interaction. That means when I go by those shops, every 7 meter on an average, you have something of Iran happening. And just keep on
multiplicity
multiplying.
of interaction.
Yeah. Okay? This will say, Iran. I mean, your mind goes, you see, oh, this is...
And sorry, why isn't that the storefronts that are written in Farsi and Sarafi and Khoraki and Super?
Yeah. And the multiplicity of expressions of different, let's say, different work and different services and different, let's say, functionality. The conglomeration is it makes the, you know, I talked to some of the kind of Iranian little bourgeois and snobbish and stuff. I talked to them and said, oh, this is junk, you know, what the hell, you know, this is like Khiyabun Nasser Khosrow, you know. And I see something positive in that. And they want kind of a Fifth Avenue, New York type of, you know, a block.
I actually wondered about that because it is very down home, if you will, that part. It's not the most chic part of the Persian community.
No, I hate chic. You know, I hate chic. But the whole point is that the chic is bourgeois, is nouveau riche, is whatever you want to call it, new money or conspicuous consumption and whatever. But I like the jigareki, you know. I like the smell of the kebab, you know, when I walk in the street. Iranian things should smell Chanel number 5, you know, when walk. You know, Iranians are basically bourgeois and anti. Now, we have a culture. Look, we don't know the history. I talk for the Shiraz, okay? I ask him for personal reason. My grandfather was a governor of Shiraz, okay, which was one of the most important areas. And they are Shirazi, they don't know. You know, all they know was the Qajar king and the Pahlavis. But they have to know, I mean, of course, there are some prominent families, very powerful, like Qavam and so forth, they live in Shiraz, okay? But also, another grandfather was in Kerman, and if you call it Kermani, you heard of Alal Mulk, who was a governor here? No. Because, you know, we are a totally bourgeois, nouveau riche society. And this is before Shah, during the Shah, and I was fighting all my life because we have nothing to do. All history is a bunch of kings and wars and conquests and
we are
and
consumed
failures.
in the notion of status. BMW, brands, all of that, that consumes our community disproportionately.
You know, I tell you, talking about BMW, they ask you, what is your license? He said, I went to Harvard. He said, what you get? He said, BMW. So, this is BMW. No, but what I'm saying that now everybody into education, who the hell give a fucking damn where the guy is educated? If he's a good servant, he could come from Timbuktu, you know, and he's a good surgeon.
But let me ask you
and
this.
Everybody's a doctor in Iran,
Right.
and I'm a mohandes. I don't care about what I am. I'm Kamran Diba. Either I do something positive or I don't do positive. If I'm a good architect or a bad architect, who cares? They want to know where education you went, and pretty soon they say what kind of shoes you wear. You know, the whole point is that we are very superficial, and it got even worse superficial because.
Well, what do we do about that? How do we reverse that?
You
time?
want me to do social engineering?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't, but I mean,
Yeah,
it sounds like it's
No,
something that,
because the elite. You see, the elite sets an example. Because Mohandes Darwish, when they came to my office in Tehran, I had all this furniture from the Qahwe Khane and second hand and so forth. Then he came to my office as a Kamran here after to see Charles Ames chairs and, you know, state of the art furniture. And he said, Kamran, you look like you're retired and you just, you're going to close shops. You just started last year. And I said, look, I like this furniture because people have touched it. People have sit in it. I'm sorry, people have farted sitting on these chairs, you know. That is meaningful for me.
But how do you, back to the Little Iran and the Persian Garden, and part of the
Persian Garden,
part of the
my
reason
vision.
why, well, first of all, let me just say, part of the reason why this is even possible is because, I mean, besides the people who've inspired the idea, etc., is because of the growth of the diasporic community here. I mean, it must be fascinating for you as someone who's lived out of Iran for 46 years, you know, to come and see a place like the north of Toronto now.
Yes,
that
exactly.
is literally hundreds of thousands of Iranians here.
Yes, because when he told me that, Dr. Ketari, that there are 60,000 Iranians living here, you know, and then the experience that Amanat had he said there are so many people are interested, because I thought that I'll come here, maybe half a dozen people come and listen to a stupid architect and get bored. He talks about architecture. So, but he gave me a different idea. He sold me the idea, okay?
And I think it's more than 60,000 too people. But go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow, so what happened to me? I saw that I could do something. Now I want to say what is my vision. I didn't talk because then I was disappointed. He said that all these things are gonna go and be high rise. I said, okay, you're going to put towers all around here? Then this is not Iran, this is Chicago, okay, well, whatever. No, I didn't say anything to him. I said, I thought that's so disappointing, they're going to destroy it. The vision is that to keep all these little shops, because multiplicity of interaction, which has to do Iranian nature, you have to keep it, and because you see different calligraphy on each door, different color, different, maybe it's bad taste, but
you feel it. You see and feel the culture.
You feel the culture, you feel the country. Okay, so how could we preserve that? So I said, get me a meeting with the people of locality, you see? So we say, how could we? Should we have, let's say, designate the area for future cultural center? Maybe this generation is not capable of doing it, but the next generation you could put the stone there, the foundation for something which is real. But we need time process could destroy the past and tradition and identity. But we have to set a plan, have an urban design of something. We should have a
So the Persian garden fits into that.
Persian garden could be the long and the heart of this thing. But more important than the Persian garden, those are shops, which my friends say, oh, this is junk, Look, okay, I don't say anything. I say, I like the junk. And then I go there, I find that I'm in Iran and so forth. So we have to have a general master plan of this area, which is not destructive to the idea of little Iran. Because the little Iran...
Sorry, when you hit the table, it hits
yes,
something.
it resonates.
Yes.
Yeah. So when... you see, the little Iran is not the 21st century, Iran with all the trappings of technology and let's say modernity. We don't use anymore or whatever, the AI and stuff like that. If you want to preserve it, preserve some vestiges of the past. Okay, I started thinking in the park that what can I do from Iran, from the past of Iran? Okay,
yes.
We already have the present as this strip of shopping.
Yes.
From the past, what is that? Okay, we start at 2,500. Okay, and this is Takht Jamshid. Okay, it's a Persepolis, and then we will have some elements of Persepolis. But I don't want a shishi. I don't want to make a kind of bling bling, as they say in France, of Persepolis with Disneyland ideas and so forth. We want to have some symbols which gives you this air of symbols of, because also we are not supposed to build on that piece. We want to keep it green and so on. So, and then after elements of the past, 2,500 years of history, in the middle we have the garden, because the garden is much later than, we don't have any gardens coming from 2,500, maybe some books and drawings and inspirations, but in reality we don't have anything left. So we do a garden, as we know, Persian garden, which is, you find it in Spain and you find it in India, you see, Taj Mahal and so on. And then we could have some tile work that we have used.
I'm amazed by how passionate you are about this.
I get in. I fall in love, with
enough so that I mean, with respect, you're in your late 80s. No one would blame you if you're sitting in France saying, I don't, Hossein Amanat, I'm not going to come and be part of this thing. And but you come, and here you are now, passionately talking about this perspective garden that needs to be built still.
You see, but
So that when you going back to you saying you're hungry, that's interesting to me. What still drives Kamran Diba? Yeah,
that's the passion. I'm not hungry for money, and we are doing it. I worked in the museum. Could you know that I didn't have any salary in the museum? I said, give it to the young artists. I never collected salary. I didn't collected anything, and I worked as a we call it kind of like a charity, or because I believed in it. If you believe in a religion and then you build a temple, because you believe in it. You don't want to make money from the temple. But anyhow, this is beside the point. I don't want to glorify
You make money from
myself.
your art collection.
No, not even that. No. I tell you, because my art is blackmailed in Iran. I have 3 galleries. No, I'm very much depending that my gallery could drop my work if it doesn't sell, because the commercial gallery wants to sell works and so forth to make it worthwhile, because she spent money, with the husband to come and put this installation, which looks like a museum show. It's very successful. But anyhow, no, how I make my living? Because when I came out of Iran, I was buying art for museum for 2 years.
Yeah, art collection.
I become an addict. I started. I was in real estate business, whatever, in U.S. Whatever money I make, I bought art. I kept all the art, and I have lived on selling the art that I collected. Some of the painting I sold for 2 million now is 150 million. But I needed money at the time. I sold it at 2 million. Okay, now still I'm in the Sotheby's in New York. I had 7 pieces, because this is I'm selling what I have. I'm selling my wealth. You see, which is art, because I need to live. I have expenses. I have employees. I have 2 houses.
Are you? I'm seeing that you have to get going soon. Are you slowing down at all?
No, I'm getting faster and faster because if I slow down, I'll die. The point is that if I cannot work, I will die. I had a shepherd in Spain, because I have a big property of forest, who every day he was working. He was not keeping the goats, because they eat all the young trees and the forest doesn't grow. So I said, get rid of them and then work for me. I give you salary. And then he worked for me. And then when he retired, he went to the village, which is next to me, 3 kilometers. And after 2 years, he died. And he was strong, walking the mountains, walking my dogs, doing everything, and retired, and he died. And retirement for me is death. If I cannot
work is your purpose.
If I lose my mind, I ask my wife to take me to Switzerland. I don't want to live any longer. No, this is how I am. I live because I could be creative.
How do you feel about getting older? What's your relationship?
Very bad.
with
I
that?
got in relation when in depression when I hit 80s. I started getting depression. You know why you get older, you depression? Because you have no future. Old people have no future. You see, at 88.
We're all going there.
No, I know, but you don't want to go as a crippled man. You don't want to go as a blind man. You don't want to You don't want to lose your mind and somebody direct you there. So you want to make a decision. It's time for me to go. So, if you hear one day I'm commit suicide, I hope I die.
God
I have a heart attack and die, so I don't have to make this decision. It's very hard for people around you.
You are robust. You are still at the top of your game, and I'm so grateful for the time you've given us. Really, I was looking forward to this. It's an honor for me to have you here, and I hope this can be we can continue this at some point. Thank you.
I thank you very much. Gave me the chance. It's cheaper than the psychotherapy.
I haven't sent you my bill yet.
Exactly. A doctor is a joke. A doctor goes and tell this guy, he says, it's bad. People know I go to a party, about 60 people there. Everybody comes and says he's got this problem and so forth. I have to tell him what to do and so forth. I'm fed up. He said, it's very easy. You send him a bill tomorrow. And the lawyer goes to his office and the letters come in, opens the letter, and it's a bill from the lawyer. He said, I was the lawyer who gave you the address. This is my bill. So,
Merci. Thank you again.
On that word, thank you.
There you go. From a few days ago here in the Roqe Studio. That was Hossein Amanat and the great Kamran Diba joining me in the Roqe Studio. Lots to talk about in terms of that interview. If you want to give us any feedback, by all means do. You can email us at info@roqemedia.com, info@roqemedia.com, or you can respond on any of our platforms, post a comment or an opinion. Let us know how you feel. Thank you so much. This is Full Time for Roqe for today. Thank you to the amazing team who put this show together each week. Savvy Roham, Tina, the photo and video queen, the talented Anahita, and Super P, Super Parisa. Special thanks to Charming Kenya, the CK, Smart Pegah, Methodical Kaveh, and the Rising Keon for your help. Next week on this program, Trio Moon, Dara Darai, Milad Derashani, Bahar Falsafi, all performing here in the Roqe Studio, straight from Iran. We're pretty excited about that. In the meantime, thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Do subscribe if you haven't done so already on any or all of our platforms. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. And as ever, Mizun Bashi.